Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I have the coffee book tag. It is the last week of November as I am filming this. It's the first day of my Thanksgiving break and one of my children is at a friend's house. My husband is at work. My oldest son is theoretically cleaning his room. And I have time. So I'm going to do some batch filming today. So you will see me like this throughout the month of December. And I haven't yet decorated my house for Christmas. And I kind of wanted to have like the whole Christmassy vibe for these tag videos. But I was able to put a couple of things on my shelves and have the festive earrings and everything. So we'll get as much Christmas feeling as we can in these videos. So the first tag I'm going to do is the coffee book tag by, actually I couldn't figure out exactly who did the first iteration of this tag. I don't know that they seem to still have a channel, but I don't know that they have any videos anymore on YouTube. I couldn't find. Anyway, so I don't know who the original person was, but I was tagged by Lucy at the Lucy Chronicles and also Tammy at the Protagonist Pub. And I am very excited to do this tag because we all know I love me some coffee. The first prompt is Black, a series that's tough to get into, but it has hardcore fans. And to be honest, we're starting this off with a bang because I got nothing. I, first of all, don't read a lot of series. I have read some. The ones that I have read are not necessarily tough to get into. I've actually enjoyed them. The ones that I think might qualify for being tough to get into, I don't think they necessarily have any hardcore fans. In fact, I don't think any of the series that I've read have any hardcore fan followings. So I don't have an answer for that one, so we'll pass. I do have an answer for all the rest, so we'll keep going. Peppermint Mocha, a book that gets more popular during the winter or festive times, like Christmas, for example. And I have a very obvious answer for that one. I didn't get too creative here, and that is A Christmas Carol. And I picked up this copy, I think last year or the year before, at a local used bookstore, and I love it. It has like the gold embossed kind of lettering, and it has these, it's full of these full color illustrations throughout. So this is my copy of A Christmas Carol, and that one comes out every Christmas time. Not only do many people read the book annually, but they also watch movie adaptations or live productions. We have a couple of different companies around the area that do A Christmas Carol every year, almost every year. So we can, anytime we want, we can go and catch a live performance of A Christmas Carol around here. That is my answer for the second prompt. And then the next one is Hot Chocolate, a favorite children's book. And this one was a favorite of mine, not when I was a child, but that I read to my children. And it's one that I read to them many times, and I always teared up every time I read it, and I loved it. That is Love You Forever by Robert Munsch. I love this one. So many memories and such a beautiful little story. And then we have A Double Shot of Espresso, a book that kept you on the edge of your seat the whole time. And I don't read a lot of suspense or thriller or that kind of thing. So I do have a classic to mention that many people don't think of classics as a book that keeps you on your toes, that keeps you reading and you want to find out what happens, keeps you on the edge of your seat. But Dracula for me was that book. And I read it a month ago or so, and it was engrossing and enthralling, and it definitely kept me on the edge of my seat in certain places. I wanted to know what happened. I was a little bit scared for the characters, and there were some definitely terrifying scenarios that took place in this book. So I'm going to go with Dracula for that prompt. And then Starbucks, a book that you see everywhere. And this one, not necessarily in like bookstores with, you know, a stand stacked with copies of it, or, you know, something that is prominent and current. But this is a book that every time I go to a used bookstore or a thrift store, there are usually multiple copies of it. Almost always, every time, I could guarantee. And then if you go to the home of someone who, particularly if they have small children, they probably also have a copy of this book. And that book is What to Expect When You Are Expecting. And I myself had a copy once upon a time. I believe I may have even had 2 copies. I think one of my oldest kid, I think like doodled all over my first copy. Anyway, I definitely had that book, and I know many people have had that book, and I see it in thrift stores all the time. I no longer have a copy. My children are teenagers. Then the next prompt, That Hipster Coffee Shop, a book by an indie author. And I don't have a physical copy of this because I read it on Kindle, and I read it 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe. It was actually a series called Daughters of His Kingdom by Amber Lynn Perry. And she is currently not writing. I believe that she started a family soon after writing that series, and she hasn't written anything since then. But I really enjoyed that series. It was set in Revolution era United States, like the colonies, just at the cusp of the Revolution. And it followed a couple of sisters and their family, and I think some other characters. I don't remember the details anymore. I need to go back and read them again. But I really enjoyed her writing style. And some people might call it purple prose. I actually really loved it. I really loved the way that she described things and her unique way with words. It was just very thoughtfully written. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like earth-shattering or groundbreaking in terms of its writing style or the story or the themes or anything. They were just, your run-of-the-mill kind of stories about colonial America. It was just the style of her writing I really enjoyed. And I didn't realize at first that it was independently published. And then when I found out it was, I was really impressed. Another one I should mention is the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower, which is independently published. Those are fantastic books, and I love them. And I think that everybody would love them who read them. So those are 2 independent authors that I really have enjoyed. And then the last prompt, 2 more prompts. The next one is, Oops, I Accidentally Got Decaf. And that is a book that you were expecting more from. And for this one, at first I couldn't think of anything. I went to my Goodreads and I looked at my list of books I had read, and I was looking at it sorted by rating, and then I sorted from the lowest to the highest. And I looked at my 1 and 2 star books, and I had way more than I thought. And I was thinking, okay, which of these books did I have expectations that they would be really good books? And then they ended up being rather disappointing for one reason or another. And so I kept saying, oh, that one, yeah, that one, or that one, or that, oh yeah, that one too. So I actually found quite a few, but 2 I'll mention. One is About Grace by Anthony Doerr. And he wrote All the Light We Cannot See, which was some years back, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 years or so. It was my favorite book of that year. I mean, it really stuck with me. It resonated with me, and I have considered it one of my favorite books since that time. I really loved All the Light We Cannot See. And so I wanted to read some more books by the author. And so I picked up About Grace by him. And I put in my Goodreads review that there were 3 things that I really didn't like about it. One, there was some metaphor related to snowflakes and snow and ice and crystallization and that kind of thing. And so it got into like scientific aspects of that sort of thing. And that's where I got lost. But also in terms of the metaphor, I was getting lost. And I said, I think even the author himself was getting lost in his metaphors. There were just too many, and it was heavy-handed with the metaphors. I think probably the thing that kept me from enjoying it at all was that the character was so passive, and that everything was just happening to him, and he was not initiating or instigating or influencing anything that was like, it was all just like happening to him, and he was not an active agent of his own life. And it just frustrated me the way it was written. I might be able to handle that in a certain setting, in a certain story, and for certain reasons, but in that book, in that setting, it just irritated me so much about him that I couldn't enjoy it at all. So I was disappointed by that one. Another one was The Violinist of Venice by Alyssa Palumbo, which was supposed to be about Vivaldi. That's the way it was described, and that's what I was looking for in it. And I had put it on my wish list many years ago, and I kind of kept my eyes peeled for it. It was kind of difficult to find. It wasn't like a readily available book. And so finally I snagged myself a copy from thrift books or something. And I finally sat down to read it, and I was so disappointed because it was not really about Vivaldi at all. And what it was about Vivaldi was mostly imagined or theorized, and it was not legitimately about his life or his life story or anything. So very little Vivaldi in it at all. The main character and the person that we spent the most time with in the book was a completely fictional character, which is fine, but I didn't like her. She was an annoying, obnoxious person. And then I strongly disliked the role that the author had her play in Vivaldi's life. And I didn't find her admirable in any way. And I didn't appreciate the choices that she made in her life. I didn't have much sympathy for her. So in short, I did not enjoy the book at all. And after having waited for so many years to find it and read it, I was very disappointed in what it actually was about. And finally, now we are on the last prompt, The Perfect Blend, a book that was both bitter and sweet and ultimately satisfying. And I'm going to go with Little Dorrit for that because the main character, Amy Dorrit, she is a bitter and sweet character all in herself. So bitter because the things that happen to her and her life situation and the journey that she takes through the story has a lot of bitter moments, and bitterness is not part of her character, but bitter times, troubles, trials, tribulations, relationship issues are kind of like thrust onto her. But she herself remains sweet and gracious and loving all the way through the whole story, and is just a beautiful shining light through the whole story. And in the end, it's very satisfying because she has a happy ending, and the people who don't deserve happy endings, everyone gets what's due to them, and in the end of the book, and it's satisfying in that way. So that is my answer for that prompt. And now I am going to tag someone. Anyone who wants to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. If you like coffee, or if you don't like coffee, if you like books, consider yourself tagged. But in particular, I'm going to tag Charlene at Coffee and a Book because, I mean, it goes perfectly together. And I looked briefly through her video list. I didn't see that she had done this tag. She may have done it a long time ago, and I didn't notice it, but I'm going to tag Charlene at Coffee and a Book, and I will see you all next time.